What's up, Degenerate Nation? Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast presented by BetMGM. This is the BBOC College Football National Championship Preview and Award Show Spectacular. We have a lot to get to today. We'll obviously preview the national championship game between Washington and Michigan. We will also give out our Haiti Smith Award, which is the voicemail caller of the year. We'll look back on some of those voicemails, get a few laughs. We'll give out our Gambling Heisman Award, and we'll even talk to fellow BBOC co-host Mike Calabrese to get a quick, I think, prop or whatever he likes. He's going to record that and send it to us. So we'll check in with him. Excuse me. We said it again. Speaking of Mike Calabrese, right after this show, we will transition to full-time college basketball featuring myself, the three-man weave crew, Mike Calabrese, and our old pal Mike Randall makes his return. We will be recording an episode tonight, so that'll be out Friday. Be 3 episodes per week. We'll have one on Monday. Take a look at a conference, recap the weekend, look at Monday night. You'll have a three-man weave with a midweek episode, and then we will be back later in the week to preview the weekend. And shortly, we will be resuming our BBOC live shows on Saturday mornings to cover college basketball as well. But before we get into the national championship, Colin, we'll talk a little college football playoff recap. First of all, what's going on? How was the game, and what were your overarching thoughts?
Well, for those of you without the visuals of YouTube, Stuckey is wearing a glorious Washington t-shirt. They have already made me a big financial winner on Monday. So, dogs, they've had such a tremendous season. As far as the Rose Bowl goes, I just could not believe the number of special teams problems. I couldn't believe how Alabama could not get a clean snap to Milroe. Lights were a little bit too bright there in the Rose Bowl, I would say, for a guy that's licensing stuff, talking highly of himself, throwing Bill O'Brien underneath the bus. Ultimately, it was Alabama's mistakes, and who knows? Saban said that was a designed quarterback run that Tommy Rees called for Milroe. Wasn't blocked properly, wasn't snapped properly, didn't get home. That was the difference. I just could not believe the number of mistakes that Michigan made at the beginning of the game. Alabama had chances to knock them out. They didn't. And when you have a trench like what Michigan has, that'll come back and bite you. As far as the Sugar Bowl goes, the handicap is exactly what you and I said. I mean, spot on. The Texas secondary was ripe, and Washington was elite in the throw game, as they always have been, except for that little, I don't know what was going on for those 3 or 4 weeks. We thought Penix maybe had a rib injury. Maybe there was a flu bug. Not sure how we didn't score 1 touchdown against Arizona State. But, Washington, the version that's the best of them, showed up in the Sugar Bowl. We knew that would dominate and cover the number for us. We'll see Sark next year probably make it into the playoff with the amount of recruiting and portal entries that they'll have. But at the same time, this is going to be a fantastic national championship game. We'll see. I can't wait to break it down with you. But, I don't think Texas ever had a shot. Alabama really did not capitalize on the Michigan mistakes, and here we are.
Yeah, I actually was surprised that both Washington got away with some awful clock management late.
Yep.
Oh my God, I was going bananas. They basically could have ended the game.
And Sark, a decision for the 2-point conversion. There were so many mistakes.
Yep. And then Michigan special teams, which are usually elite, they have one of the best special teams groups in the country. And they made, what did they gift Alabama 11 points? And Alabama special teams came to play, hitting 250-plus yarders. But Michigan, I thought, was the better team from start to finish, just overall. They were able to overcome those special teams blunders. And I thought Washington was the deserved winner. But, when you're in a high-leverage game like that, a lot of times you don't get away with making a potentially fatal clock management error like they did. I thought both games were outstanding. 2 one-possession games. We even had overtime in one. I was surprised that more people didn't say, I didn't hear on the interwebs that we shouldn't be doing the college football overtime rule. I don't mind it at all. I mean, it's what we do during the regular season. But in other sports, we do have different overtime rules for the playoffs than we do in the regular season. You go to hockey, even the NFL. Obviously you can't end in a tie. But are you okay with the overtime format?
Yeah, I mean, we were quick going to 2-point conversions, which was simply going to be Blake Corum versus Jalen Milroe. That's what we were heading towards. Michigan just got to the punch first and stopping. But you have to ask yourself, like, Arkansas has this breaking record of 7 overtimes. I'm sorry, we have a 9 overtime game with Penn State. But I mean, we had to eliminate just touchdown after touchdown after touchdown, racking up these scores. They went to 2-point conversions the third overtime, now 2-point conversions second overtime. Are we sure we want to decide a semifinal for the national championship on 2-point conversions? I mean, how big does your bag have to be with those plays? And do we really want this sport determined on a 2-point conversion after the entire season? And now if you're going to win the national championship, you're going to have to play maybe 15, 16 games and it could be determined on a 2-point conversion. Not sure if I'm comfortable with that. I'm almost like leaning back towards the NFL model of, fine, you kick a field goal, the other team's going to get a possession.
Yeah, or I think they should change it. I'm okay with it because you still have to execute from the 25. But yeah, I feel like, and this didn't happen, but going to 2-point conversions as quick as we do for a college football playoff game, I think it's a little aggressive. So I think they should change the rule at the minimum to say, after we get to the, 5th overtime, right? Then you have to start going for 2. Because I mean, the second overtime, your whole season's decided on a 2-point conversion. There would be a lot of discourse about that if Alabama ended up scoring and kicking the extra point. But alas, we have Washington and Michigan as the 2 teams left standing since the BCS era in the late 90s. Neither team has played for a national title. And the Big Ten. I guess the Big Ten will have a national title winner next year, although if Washington wins it, this will be considered a national championship for the Pac-12 and its official last hurrah. As we record this late Thursday afternoon, Michigan is a 4.5-point favorite over under 56.5. Again, we played Monday night, 7:30 Eastern on ESPN. By the way, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe, like button. And we will have our live show late Monday afternoon with myself, Colin, and Mr. Brett McMurphy for BBOC Live. So my initial handicap on this game, I think the line is close to about fair. There's a couple of things that really stick out to me with this game. I mean, you mentioned it off the top of the show. We talked about the weakness of Texas, and it was their secondary, their corners, and going up against Penix and 3 healthy elite receivers in Dunze, McMillan, and Polk. That ended up being Texas's downfall. Those 3 were targeted 20 times against Texas. They had 19 catches for 353 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, that ended up being the difference. Michigan's defense, I think it's like a Texas mirror with better corners. So they have a better shot at matching up with Washington. They don't have, and look, they've kind of built their team and built their defense to stop Ohio State and their electric passing attacks. We saw that more specifically the past couple of years. But they don't have, when we saw them play against Stroud, you had Hutchinson, Ajabo. They don't have the elite pass rush off the edge. I think they have a slightly better, deeper pass rush off the edge as Texas. But the strength, just like Texas, of the Michigan front is their interior defensive line. But they have better corners. Now, what kind of stumps me about this game is you could argue that Michigan made the national title and still hasn't faced an elite quarterback. So, I mean, like their three best teams that they face, Kyle McCord, who, he transferred to Syracuse, Drew Aller, and then Jalen Milroe. And we talked about it's like just take away the deep ball and don't let Milroe run, which is what Michigan set out to do, and he couldn't take advantage. Now Penix will be able to take advantage, if you just sat back. But so I do believe, like at least with Texas, we saw them play, good passing attacks, and we could really tell that their corners were a bit problematic. We haven't seen any cracks, and we know how good Will Johnson is. Sam still, but Wallace has played really well. But like again, we haven't seen them face this caliber of offense. So how much of a drop off will we see in production, and how much can Penix and these receivers take advantage? And on the other side of the ball, and these two teams, I think the best part about this game is they're polar opposites. Washington led the country in air yards this year. Michigan wants to run it as much as any team in the country. So these teams are polar opposites. The Washington defense, I will say, is trending up. Better health. We've seen that. Even I know they gave up a ton of points and yards to Texas, but Ewers had 85 passing yards at the first half, and they put together, I think, 200 yards of offense over their final 3 drives when the game was, 2-touchdown game. Washington didn't want to give up an explosive play. So a little misleading in the yards and points department. This Washington defense is certainly trending up. We talked about this last week. Better health in the secondary along the defensive line, and they're just playing better overall. So Michigan's going to want to run it. They're going to want to pound it. Can they do that against Washington? And improving Washington defense, that will go a long way in determining this one as well. So what do you see here for the national championship game?
I think we should start with the Michigan offense before we go to the Washington offense, because we are not leaving this podcast because we have to talk about the referee crew. I think the referee crew is going to be more involved in this game than any national championship game we've ever had. I'll start with the Michigan offense. The biggest advantage in this game, from all the numbers, the analytics, and everything, is the Michigan offensive run concepts against the Washington defense. 32% of all the rushing attempts by Michigan have 8 or 9 guys in the box pre-snap. They will have pre-snap motion. They will load up tight ends. They will pull a weak side guard, and they will run Corum like a pinball in between all of those. Now, there's no explosiveness ever since he had the surgery last year. You're not going to see Michigan running 60 yards down the field on the ground. But what Michigan does with their blocking up front, they are an automatic standard downs the entire game. I can't see a way that Washington gets them into passing downs. Now, Michigan, Washington can't defend the inside zone. They can't defend man. They can't defend power or counter concepts from the analytics, and that's all that Michigan runs. Washington is top 10 in standard down rates. I don't expect them to come out of it. And they're also fourth in quality drives. Remember what quality drives is. It's drives that end in scores, have more than 10 plays, longer than 3 minutes, cover 50 yards. That is Michigan's offense to a T. Now, when you go and look at these last 2 games where Washington's defense has really stepped up, Oregon and Texas had twice as many plays in standard downs as they had in passing downs. The difference was third downs. Washington has been elite in third downs. They've limited their pass to opponents 7 of 21 on third downs. Whether you want to call it Bo Nix not getting it done, Quinn Ewers being inaccurate, it just has not been able to work for either of those teams in third downs. The red zone is a huge issue for Washington on this side of the ball. 80th in defensive finishing drives, but it gets way worse after that. Michigan is 7th nationally in red zone touchdowns coming from the ground. That's all Blake Corum. Washington is 112th in red zone rushing TDs allowed. There are props on the board that are already up as we record this. I don't think there's a ceiling for Blake Corum anytime TD. I saw minus 320. I said, that's not priced right. Minus 350, not priced right. When you go and look at Michigan's offense and who gets the red zone attempts, I went back to Penn State. Only 3 attempts in the red zone in the last 5 games have come outside of Blake Corum. 2 went to Donovan Edwards. 1 went to Samaj Morgan. The rest, all Blake Corum touches. So anytime TD, it's pricey, it's worth it. I played Blake Corum 2+ TDs. The math is wrong on that number that it's out there. I'm sure it will correct itself by Monday. But he has scored at least 2 rushing touchdowns in 9 of 14 games this season. That is 57%. The odds should be -130. As you and I record this, Blake Corum 2 TDs is +150 out there. That is a terrible number. -130 is your buying point. So, Stuck, for me, it is clear as day that Michigan is never coming out of the standard downs. They're going up against a defense that the whole season is 81st in third downs. They've just really stepped it up against Oregon and Texas. I see a path for Michigan having methodical, slow clock touchdown scoring drives without any resistance from the run defenders that are on the Washington defense.
Yeah, that is a key point here. Number one, I should mention what's going on with Donovan Edwards? Is he just still hurt? Is he washed? Are they going to unleash him a bit more in this game? He had a big drop, I know, in the semifinal. I thought he would look a lot better and healthier after the month off, but should we just consider he's going to get, like last week, a target, 4 rushes for 11 yards, or is he now suppressed in value and you can also look to him in some form or fashion?
I think he's washed. I mean, he's a full participant in pregame activities. He is just not getting the time. And when he does get the time, when he does get the action, he's not producing it at an elite level. 2 years ago,
his vision isn't great. So like but he had to be like so explosive when he would just hit and then break him off. And now that he doesn't seem to have that same burst with, some of the vision issues, then it's really bad.
Well, the other side of the ball, I think this will be the first time I've said this. Who is going to be the first TD scorer for Washington? It's literally a roulette wheel. I've never seen a larger, diverse group of names. I went through every red zone attempt that Washington has been in through their last 6 games. You can go down the entire list of everybody that's had a target this season for Michael Penix. They're all options in the red zone. So if you're going to take a long shot prop, you want to throw some money down on something that could go big, you're going to go deep down on the list on Washington. Now, let's break this down with them, because this to me is the hardest part. This is the hardest handicap in this game. This is a very similar offense to LSU 2019. And when I say that, Michael Penix finds the open spot on the field and drills it. That's exactly what Joe Burrow did. The difference is Joe Burrow, that team didn't commit as many penalties, and Joe Burrow was way more accurate. Penix has had like 9 turnover-worthy plays, and he had Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So there's a big difference between LSU 2019 and this team, but that's what Washington does. They find the empty spot and they go at it. Penix has 40 big-time throws. He's the highest ADOT of his career at 10.9, and he's protected by the Joe Moore award-winning offensive line. And I think that's where we start to talk about how the Michigan defensive line, the pressure is going to come from the outside, not probably the interior, like where Texas had Sweat, Murphy. So this is going to come from the outside. And a lot of people are thinking, well, Penix is finally going to get some pressure. Listen, that guy can sniff out pressure from a mile away. Nobody's getting a touch on him. There's no quarterback hits. There's no sacks. When you go and look at their tackles, Troy Fatanu and Roger Rosengarten, they just don't allow pressure. They don't allow anyone to get by. Both of them are ranked in the top 8 of all offensive tackles in PFF individually in pass blocking. They've allowed on the entire season 1,138 snaps. They've allowed 2 sacks and 4 quarterback hits. That is one of the most impressive things you can say out there. So do I think Michigan's going to get pressure here? Unlikely. I mean, they'll have a better chance at it than Texas did. But I mean, these numbers from these tackles.
It wasn't an elite edge rush or sack defense for Michigan this year either.
Right. Jesse Minter's going to have to dial up some blitz if he wants to get to Penix, but if you dial that up, he recognizes that he pulls a Burrow and hits the spot. So, I think the other thing too is I cannot believe Michael Penix is running again after 2 ACL tears. Right. He came into the Sugar Bowl with 44 yards on the season, whether a design, scramble, whatever. He had 30 rushing yards in that game. 2 of them were undesigned. 1 was a scramble versus Texas. Now, his designed runs throughout the season, and I go last year, anytime he's been under Kalen DeBoer, it goes straight over center or straight over the right guard here, Julius Buelow. So I am looking for props. As we record this on Thursday, I can't find one Michael Penix rushing prop. I assume because he averages about 5.2 yards per game rushing, we're going to get somewhere between 5 and 11 yards as a rushing prop. I'm going over. I think he's healthy enough to run. I think it will keep Michigan off guard. It's going to open up some things in the passing game. He is good for me for at least 2 or 3 designed runs here. I would take that number all the way up to over 14 and a half. Now, that's not really the handicap in the game stuff. The handicap is
Oh
Rome
yeah, I
Odunze,
should
Jalen
also I
Pope.
should mention. I mean, sorry to interrupt you, but sack yards kind of gets your rushing yards. We just talked about it. You like never get sacked,
Yep.
and many times see this in the NFL and in college. You quarterbacks who don't like to run, or quarterbacks that do like to run, will run more in higher leverage games. Right? It's worth it to risk more. And we saw that last week with Penix. Yeah, I mean, 30 yards for Penix, that's like a shocking number based on what he's done this year. And this is a national title now, so I'm assuming that he'll be even more inclined to run it. The biggest thing for me is, look, Michigan does a good job of preventing explosive plays, but again, look at and so does Washington, but look at the offenses that they face. But unlike Texas, they may be able to press at a higher frequency and then try to bring pressure. Can their corners hold up when they do that? So if they want to bring pressure, that's what Arizona State did. Now, Washington wasn't fully healthy, but they were bringing cover zero blitzes, and they were playing press on the outside, and it threw Penix off. Can Michigan do that? Disguise their coverages enough? Corners hold up in press man. You can't do that all game, but enough when they do to throw Penix off. That, to me, I think, is the key to the game, right? Would you agree?
Oh, and how important is Dylan Johnson's hands out of the backfield? Now, he was in a boot walking off the Sugar Bowl field after all the festivities. Kalen DeBoer comes out the next day, says he's fine. It's a nagging injury. We've dealt with it all season long during games. And Dylan Johnson went back out there and played. This is one of the shortest turnarounds from semifinals to national championships we've had. Usually it's 10, 11 days. So we'll see how healthy he's going to be. I am going to be on the ground Saturday at Player Media. I will be right up in front of Dylan Johnson to give him all the interrogating questions that I can give him. And I'll be on the field watching Dylan Johnson to see how healthy he is, because like you said, Stuck, he is so important. If Jesse Minter puts on the tape of that Arizona State blitz that covers zero, Dylan Johnson's going to have to be there to catch those balls out of the backfield for quick dumps. Now, the real handicap in this game, which is so hard, Rome Odunze, Jalen Polk, Jalen McMillan, what will they do with 50-50 balls against this Michigan secondary? It was anything that was contested against Texas. Washington won every single one of those. The only wide receiver this Michigan defense has really seen. I'm sorry, let me say that again. The only wide receiver this Michigan defense has anything that's comparable is Marvin Harrison Jr., who loves to run hitch, by the way. Hitch is Washington's favorite thing, just a little comeback there after they run their steps. Well, Marvin Harrison Jr. was limited to 5 catches on 9 targets, but Kyle McCord was the quarterback. You go back farther, CJ Stroud, Marvin Harrison working together, Michigan was able to shut that down too, specifically on hitch. So there could be some success here. I worry about the out routes and the 50-50 ball. Corners are very good. I have Josh Wallace, Mike Sanderstill, Rod Moore, Quentin Johnson, Will Johnson, all of those guys rank in the top 150 of PFF's individual grading of coverage grades of all defensive backs. So it's good on good here, but they've never seen anything like this before because there are just so many weapons. So 50-50 balls on out routes are really going to determine how Washington goes here. I expect Michigan D to have more success than Texas in A, getting pressure, and B, going up for those 50-50 balls. But still, Washington was up by 13 at the end of that game. So how much can Michigan close that gap? To me, Stuck, that's the big unknown here. I think Dylan Johnson, they need that play action pass, or at least some semblance of a play action pass to help draw those defenders out. To me, I think the refs are going to get involved. Don't forget this either. Washington, there's a huge penalty problem. Washington is 132nd in the nation in penalties. Michigan is second in the nation in penalties. And that leads us into the referees of this game, which is just unbelievable. If you happen to remember the First Responders Bowl, because it was a tweet storm, there were so many flags being thrown. We had a ref say "damn it" on on his microphone. That was Ed Ardito of Conference USA. Ed Ardito has the highest rate of personal foul calls of all head referees in FBS. The second highest of personal fouls, Marcus Woods of the ACC, who is calling this game. Marcus Woods calls an average of 2.25 personal fouls per game. Woods' crew threw a heavy 168 flags this season. They average 14 per game, and it's a huge diversity from false start, holding, personal fouls, and yes, defensive pass interference. Woods averages two
The
defensive
ACC is going to
pass.
have a say in the national title after all, huh?
Yes. Yes. And when you go look at Marcus Woods' crew, they call at least two defensive pass interferences per game. It almost doubled all the other officiating crews in the ACC. It was one of the more unbelievable, like eye-popping things when I was doing the write-up. That'll be out on Action this weekend. Please go read it. Let's go to the splits here. Michigan, 4 personal fouls on the season. Washington, 10. Michigan, 2 PIs this season. Washington, 17. Now, I don't think JJ McCarthy is going to be sit back and passing all day, but the discrepancy in penalties and knowing that this ACC crew has the heaviest amount of flags, second highest rate of personal fouls, and the highest rate of defensive pass interference, it works both ways. Washington's going to get some free yards here. These teams are going to get spotted some good field position. There's going to be a lot. I think there's extra scoring opportunities. I know. I think you and I originally kind of came out and thought that we thought the under would tick here. I hit the over a couple hours ago. I think there's going to be additional scoring opportunities given by the Zebras based on the track record of ACC ref Marcus Woods.
Now that this is ticked up, I think I might play the under. The refs, the officials do scare me, but the way that I'm making a leap of faith that the Michigan D-backs can hold up. The Washington defense is improving. I do think Michigan's going to have success on the ground, but they're going to be long. Their offense is going to be their best defense. They're going to be long. They play really slow. This game will be played at a slow pace. Washington doesn't play fast either. So I think Michigan's going to have these long, methodical drives. And I think that their defense can hold up enough, specifically in the red zone. They prevent and both teams prevent explosive plays, which is what I want. I think the spread is about right. If you wanted to take the points with DeBoer, it's just hard for me to project exactly where Michigan is based on and that hurts the total, the handicap, based on the schedule of opposing offenses that they faced. But from a power ratings perspective, I have the line about right. I think I'm at like 3.9, 3.8.
Yeah, I'm at 4. I'm right there with you. No value.
Yeah. So, but I do show a little bit of value in the under. The officials do scare me. I also, I think that this will be, so I expect Michigan to come out and try to control the clock. And, the Washington, you can't really get deep on them, and their corners are playing better. So what is that going to lead to? It's going to lead to like just their linebackers coming down hard, right? And they're going to just have to sell out to try and stop the run. So I think this could be a potential decent day for Colston Loveland. Any thoughts there? It's hard because Michigan plays a bunch of tight ends, so it's like who's going to. But I think like in a play action, there's going to be some open tight ends at times.
Well, McCarthy's now targeting tight ends more than he is his receivers. He had 2 very questionable throws over the middle against Alabama, and they cut it out. It's almost as if Sharon Moore was like, and this is what's amazing to me because I have a prop in the national championship write-up. JJ McCarthy under 0.5 interceptions minus 135. Why do I like it? Well, McCarthy hasn't thrown an interception since week 4, but he's also been extremely low risk passing. Remember, this is a quarterback that didn't even make a passing attempt in the second half against Penn State. I think what worries me about it stuck with Loveland is if the Michigan rush offense and the offensive line do what I think they're going to do, how many passing attempts are you getting out of JJ McCarthy? How many attempts out of passing downs do you think there's going to be? So that is my one worry about that is yes, I agree with you that Loveland is a look, but it seems that once Terry and Arnold picked off JJ McCarthy, but was out of bounds and didn't reset himself, that was it for Sharon Moore. Every single throw was going to be low risk. It was going to be comebacks on the sideline, or it was going to be something where Alabama could Kool-Aid or Terry wasn't going to be able to get to it. So how many shots we're going to see McCarthy take over the middle? You're saving grace and taking Loveland or any Michigan wide receiver to go over their totals is that Washington just comes out balls on fire and they're up by 2 TDs because your slow-paced, methodical offense with Corum, that's not going to work. It'll work down in the red zone. It ain't going to work getting chunk yards. So you're going to be
I might look Loveland score a touchdown.
Right.
Yeah, that might be the way to go. All right. So yeah, ultimately nothing on the spread for you. I know you'll have some hedge of your Washington future. You like the over, and then do you want to summarize your props?
Yeah, I am going to suggest Michigan -4 in the write-up. I am not going to put it in the app. I am not going to play it. That is a play that I would make in a vacuum if I had no money on the side, no futures whatsoever. Michigan is a more disciplined team, and from a penalties perspective and from a rushing perspective, I could see them controlling the clock better. But don't go crazy. To me, it'd be a half unit play, a 1 unit play at best. Total, I like a lot more. But 55 is key. And as we're talking, it's steamed. But to end up on the rest of the props, Jeremy Bernard, first Washington touchdown, that's out there at 30-1, right? It's 30-1 for first TD. It's also 15-1 out there for first Washington TD. Go and look at that Oregon game. Look at some film. Jeremy Bernard gets a lot of touches in the red zone. Not only that, they've snapped the ball directly to Dylan Johnson, and he has simply just touch passed it in front of him to a jet sweep motion, Jeremy Bernard. That is an X factor that they use frequently. I love that number at 30-1. Michael Penix is out there, 30-1. I think somebody sent me a note and said he's 50-1 in some shops. Listen, if designed run is on the table, I don't see why not. I mean, it's such a large number, and Michael Penix has rushed for TDs before. So those are definitely 2 first TD props that I love. And of course, I'll be out there looking for Michael Penix rushing yards over.
All right, good stuff there. And as I said before, we'll have our live show Monday, late afternoon, and Colin and I will both have content on the Action Network app and actionnetwork.com. Can't wait for this game, though. Contrasting styles, 2 teams that I think will give us a good show. I think it'll be another close game. All right, let's move on to the award show. All right, so with the championship game talk over, it's time for a long-standing tradition here at Big Bets on Campus. Let's hand out some awards. As I mentioned previously, we'll hand out the Haiti Smith Award, which goes to our voicemail caller of the year. And then we will select our 6th annual recipient of the Action Network Gambling Heisman Trophy, the most prestigious award in all of sports. But first, we do want to recognize 3 college football coaches who received the most voicemail calls this year by far. Number 3, longtime BBOC nemesis Mario Cristobal. One of the biggest blunders of the season against Georgia Tech and countless other poor decisions. Number 2, your boy, SEC Media Days darling, Jimbo Fisher.
I'm sorry, it's just the culmination of me having the first question at SEC Media Days, him tripping over himself and now being fired. Here we are.
And think about it. He did end up having a say in the college football playoff. Some very questionable decisions against Alabama in a game Texas A&M easily could have won, and Alabama would not have been in the college football playoff. And oh man, then the playoff would have been awful. Florida State would have been in there. They probably would have taken Florida State over. They probably would have put Georgia still in. And Georgia Michigan would have been a better game. I don't know though. Would they have put Florida State in? Who knows? Jimbo. So Jimbo did have his say, and the ACC will have its say with the officials. But number 1 by a landslide, James Franklin, the man who cannot win a big game. Small game James, and then didn't kneel against Northwestern. One of the worst beats I had all year. Good job, small game James. Another season without a big game win.
The West Virginia game still hurts. I knew the
West
second
Virginia,
Neil Brown.
too.
The second Neil Brown took a timeout, I said, Franklin's going to shove this in. You know it. And it happened.
Yeah. Penn State games, always an adventure. All right, let's move on to our Haiti Smith Award, which goes to the Voicemail Caller of the Year, named after this infamous September 2018 voicemail after Lovie Smith's University of Illinois team gave up 5 fourth-quarter touchdowns to Penn State, of all teams, for a legendary bad beat. All right, let's run through our nominees, and then we'll select a winner. Thousands of gamblers have called in to our hotline, 959-BAD-BEAT, all season. But here are some of our very, very favorites. Our first nominee, Martin from the bathtub. Let's try to play these.
Martin from the
Can you hear this?
Yeah.
Here to give a public service announcement.
Not as well now. If you want to push it up to the microphone.
4.5 minutes into the second quarter today. Get it out. What? Whoa. Now you'll get a better update from me next weekend in South Bend. But until then, I will sit here in this glorious bathtub and say that Ohio State is no longer a clown show. Also, Rubber Stucky, you're the one. You make gambling. And also halftime. Rubber Stucky, you're the one. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Martin. For future reference, if you want to get into the finals for the Haiti Smith Award, singing will always give you an extra boost. So, yeah, Martin's lullaby to me definitely helped get him another nomination. I think he won Voicemail Caller of the Year one year, maybe 2. I'll have to go back and look at the award winners from before. Second nominee, Waiting on Arkansas.
Halftime of the Arkansas-Texas A&M game, and I'm still waiting for that explosiveness that Colin Wilson promised us. The only explosive thing about this Arkansas offense is Sam Pittman's explosive hit popping out of his shirt. Between this and Dino Babers, I might have a coronary before 3 o'clock. Good God.
Yeah, we're all still waiting on Arkansas. This could be a voicemail for next year too. I mean, we're going to be waiting a while.
Who's your quarterback next year, by the way?
Taylor Green, baby.
Oh yeah, that's right. Third nominee, Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Y'all gonna keep betting against the goats, and y'all gonna keep losing y'all money. They ain't worth Tuscaloosa, but ain't nobody else in the SEC West worth a lion this year. We just gonna keep on rolling until we do something stupid as hell. Like we did about 15 times this game, and it still didn't matter. Roll Tide.
Thank you for that. I will say, after that call, I faded Alabama twice against Auburn and Michigan successfully. So I'm glad I did not heed your advice. Fourth nominee, hot for Colin Wilson.
What's up, boys? It's RJ. I must say, Colin's getting hot. If your woman's fertile, keep her away. You might have a bunch of little Colin Wilsons running around. Overs.
All right. Our fifth, no comment there, but that's definitely in the running. Colin, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, keep your women away from me. My wife would be pissed.
That's a very true statement. Fifth nominee, bad haircut guy.
Georgia covers. Georgia over covers. Mizzou, LSU over covers. Lady indoors. This guy's hot. Yeah, when I was in second grade, this girl named Becca broke up with me because I got a haircut, and I thought that was the lowest point of my life until I just lost Maryland plus 19.5, the Oklahoma Texas under, and Missouri plus 6.5, all within 10 minutes of each other. So back on everything else.
Already can't wait. Just so you can hear the pain. Just those are what potentially make Saturdays so great. And also on the other side of the coin, potentially so painful. There's like 3:00 and then 3 games that look like winners go against you all at once. And then you got to strap up and lock in for the 3:30 games. Nothing like it. I already can't wait for next year.
The red dot anxiety. You got to love it. No, I mean, if we knew the girlfriend was a listener, God, we'd have to fast track this one to the winner, but we don't know.
Yeah. 6th nominee, the Iowan Left Alone.
Hey, boys, love the pod. Checking here from Fear Out the Dialect. Wife is in Vegas. Riding in those two. Watching around. Riding Tom Wilson. Terrible. Cam Pittman. The Razorback. Darn. Hey, listen, buddy.
So I personally think this call was made just to complain, right, about the bet. I think the whole wife thing just accidentally came out. I don't think that was pre-planned whatsoever, which to me makes right now in the running of the races and around the 3rd quarter poll, this one's there, man. I don't think that wife thing was planned. I think it accidentally slipped out.
Love it. 7th nominee, Stucky the Robot.
25.5-point favorite. I'm at a winner right now. Maybe come outside of the damn recess and tell you that Auburn just lost by 3 touchdowns. You freeze? I don't care. I'm gonna freeze. That's what you sound like. You sound like a damn robot because you sound like a dumbass. And Auburn just lost by 2 touchdowns to Derry Kill, guy who can't even stay alive on the sideline. Come on, man. You can do better. I know you can do better. Every Saturday, same. You guys, I'm honestly tired of calling. You're probably tired of hearing.
Yeah, that was in regards to Auburn losing to New Mexico State. One of the worst, most embarrassing losses, worst bets I had all year. And the final nominee, the Drake May fan club.
And I'm tired of hearing myself because Drake May and Matt Brown, this might be the worst QB coach duel I've seen in a long time. This kid is ranted. You know what else sucks? You're going to suck in basketball this year, too. Just like last year. Sorry, everybody in Chapel Hill. You guys suck. Drake May, I hope you listen to this podcast. You shut up.
All right, so those are the 8 nominees. I'm going to go ahead. Stucky the Robot, Drake May fan club eliminated. Martin, you didn't call in enough and sing enough, but we'll still send you gear. You are our favorite caller, and you've already won. Roll Tide, you lost to Michigan. You're out. Let's see. It either comes down to, so there's 4 nominees. The 4 final nominees, Waiting on Arkansas, Hot for Colin Wilson, Bad Haircut Guy, and the Iowan Left Alone. I'm okay with any one of those 4. Do you want to make the final decision?
I'm going to go with the Iowan Left Alone for the simple fact that I think this gentleman literally was in his house. He was in his Iowa house by himself while his wife was in Las Vegas partying. Who knows what the backstory is on that? Losing bets, not knowing what your wife is writing. I'm sorry, he deserves this award. A life boost for me, a confidence vote for the 6th nominee, the Iowan Left Alone.
The Iowan Left Alone. And I'm assuming he's an Iowa fan who in Iowa went the final 2 games without a point. 1 fluttered in field goal over the final 155 minutes. So I think he deserves to score something, which is the 2023 Haiti Smith Award goes to the Iowan Left Alone. And we got some Arkansas slander in there as well. Congratulations, Iowan. Reach out to our producer, Matt, at podcast@actionnetwork.com to claim your prize. All right, before we go to the award show, let's kick it to Mike Calabrese for his favorite props.
Thanks, Duck. For the national title game on Monday, I have 2 player props, 1 from each side. I'll get started with Washington's tight end Jack Westover. His receiving total is sitting at 29.5. I have no problem going over here because he's going to be the safety blanket and potentially the difference maker for both Penix and the Washington offense. The Michigan defense, as we know, they are elite at getting pressure. They're top 3 in pressure rate and defensive line havoc rate. But Penix isn't somebody who's going to be comfortable throwing outside of the pocket on the run all that often. So I think he's going to counter that by getting the ball out of his hands quickly, and there's no better safety blanket in his offense than Jack Westover. Since October 28th, he's had 4 games with 5 or more targets. He's coming off that big performance against Texas in the Sugar Bowl, in which he had 6 catches for 59 yards. And when you look at how teams attacked this Michigan defense down the stretch, particularly when they were playing better offenses. Cade Stover, 6 targets. Corey Dyches from Maryland, 6 targets. And even Penn State cobbled together with their 2 tight ends, Ty Warren and Theo Johnson. They had 8 targets in total. So I think teams are finding things schematically difficult on the perimeter and a little bit easier underneath and hitting those safety blanket checkdown throws. So I see Westover getting 6 to 7 targets in this game. I would play this up all the way to 34.5. Now, the second one is probably my favorite here on the board of all the exotics for Monday night, and it's Blake Corum receiving and rushing yards. It's sitting at 117.5 in the market, and that's a major overreaction to his performance against Alabama in the Rose Bowl. He's accounted for 118 or more yards from scrimmage just twice all season long. So if this was the number, it would be 2 and 12. And keep in mind, he needed 25 yards in overtime against Alabama to get to 118. So he was sub 100 in regulation. But really, the element of this that I really like is that Washington learned a lot from their midseason meeting with Oregon. Bucky Irving killed them. He accounted for 161 yards from scrimmage. He was doing it in the run game between the tackles. He was also, a weapon in the passing game. When they got a little bit healthier by the Pac-12 title game and had made adjustments, they totally shut him down. He had 36 total yards, and his backup, Jordan James, had 65 total yards from scrimmage. So I see this Washington defense ascending, getting a little bit better. I think the narrative on them is that, they're paper mache. You can run right through them. You can throw the ball on them all over the yard. I don't think that's true, and I still think this Blake Corum number is inflated by about 15 yards. So I'll go under 117.5 on his player prop from, an all yards perspective, all purpose yards from scrimmage. So those are my top 2, under on Corum, over on Westover. All right, back to you guys.
All right, folks, we're finally here, the moment you've all been waiting for. The Action Network Gambling Heisman trustees have assembled and voted, and now it's time to select our 6th annual recipient of the Action Network Gambling Heisman Trophy, the most prestigious award in all of sports. First, as always, we will begin by honoring our past recipients who continue to inspire college football gamblers across the globe. 2018, Trevor Lawrence, quarterback, Clemson. 2019, Lynn Bowden Jr., the entire offense, Kentucky. 2020, Drew Plitt, quarterback, Ball State. 2021, Bailey Zappi, quarterback, Western Kentucky. And 2022, Michael Pratt, quarterback, Tulane. All right, here are this year's nominees. Now, obviously, we take performance into account as well as against the spread prowess. At the end of the day, this is still a gambling show. This year's nominees: Jaden Maeda, quarterback, UNLV. Begrudgingly, Diego Pavia, quarterback, New Mexico State. That was a mandatory insertion by the group of 5 guys. Noah Fafita, quarterback, Arizona. And Graham Nicholson, kicker, Miami of Ohio. I can say with full confidence, Diego Pavia has 0 chance, especially after turning in one of the worst bowl performances in college football bowl history, also not covering in his conference title game.
Completely agreed.
Jada Maeda didn't get the cover, couldn't get a single 2-point conversion against Kansas. Didn't play that.
Already in the portal.
Already in the portal, eliminated. Comes down to Noah Fafita and Graham Nicholson. Both did cover in their bowl games. Both starred for 2 of the best against the spread teams in the country. But the best, by far, I shouldn't say by far, but the best against the spread team. And the man who led the heroics in the bowl game, much to your chagrin, Colin, but the winner, of on behalf of the Action Network Heisman Trust, we award this season's Gambling Heisman Trophy to Arizona quarterback Noah Fafita. Colin, any thoughts? I know you don't want to relive that Oklahoma.
Oh, no. I Noah Fafita absolutely earned this. To me, he had to win that game against Oklahoma. No turnover-worthy plays in the bowl game. Look, Noah Fafita comes out in week 6 against USC and Caleb Williams, and he throws 5 touchdowns. I mean, an unbelievable season for Arizona. Quarterback change in there. All the talk was Jaden Delora before the season. Jed Fish knew what was best, had this freshman lead it. Can't wait to see what we get out of him in the Big 12. I will say this. There was massive consideration for Graham Nicholson, considering the conditions in the Cure Bowl that he had to kick in and was still drilling it. Extremely good effort. Closed the gap, but Noah Fafita, what he did against Oklahoma specifically, didn't make any mistakes after I complained on our pod that he made too many mistakes, is what wins him this award. Good for Noah Fafita. Can't wait to see him next year.
Yeah, and he played without his star left tackle. The offensive line was a mess. He basically was under fire the entire game, and he had to come up with a 90-plus yard drive at the end of that game. And also, congratulations to Action Network Coach of the Year winner Jed Fish for helping his quarterback earn this award. Congrats again to Noah and all of our nominees. Later this month at Action Network headquarters in New York City, Noah will have his name engraved onto the actual Action Network Heisman Trophy in a private ceremony. We wish the hardworking men and women of the University of Arizona football program the best of luck next season. And now, a quick word from Action Network Audio Director, Matt Mitchell. All right, that'll do it for us. One final reminder that myself, Mike Calabrese, and Mike Randall will kick off the full transition to college basketball here on BBOC. That episode will be live tomorrow, Friday, January 5th, with our tip-off episode. And then myself, Mike Calabrese, and new contributor, Greg Waddell, will be releasing episodes every Monday. And of course, our friends, the Three-Man Weave, will continue to deliver new episodes every Wednesday. But that'll do it for our national championship preview and awards bonanza. It's been another fun and profitable season here. You guys make the show. We wouldn't be here without you, especially with all the long-term listeners. We appreciate you guys. Love the ride. Love the sweats every week. Can't wait to do it all over again next summer, starting with the conference previews, which will be here before we know it. Colin will be driving around, firing in win totals in April, May, whenever they come out. But it's been another fun ride. I love doing the show. You know, all of our episodes, look forward to them, and it's because of you guys. Love the voicemail callers, so looking forward to doing it all again next year. Colin, thanks to you again. It's always a pleasure. Thanks to our producers on the back end. Do you have any final parting words?
Yeah, portal's about to close. I got about 3 weeks to get returning production TARP numbers done. You're right. I'll be firing off win totals in April. We're going to do a little college baseball later on this spring. I'll see where I can help out around March Madness, but you're right. College football, it is becoming close to like the NBA, owning the entire calendar. So I will make sure that we are more prepared than any other vertical in the world. And I want to put additional things out to our podcast producer, Matt Mitchell. When you and I first started doing this as the Gin and Juice years ago, we didn't have Mitchell, and we had to kind of do all the heavy lifting by ourselves. And once we got Matt, everything you hear from an audio perspective, he weaves into a masterpiece. He was born to do this job. He does an unbelievable job. The intro song, I think, it makes the hair stand up on my arm when I hear it in the summers. That is, just another example of how great he is of a producer. So I just want to say thank you to everybody that supports us here, because Stuckey and I couldn't do it without Action Network, without Matt Mitchell, and without everybody else on the team.
Yeah, well said. So that'll do it for us. Another season in the books. Let's close out strong with a profitable national championship game between Michigan and Washington. Good luck to anyone who has pending futures or bets on the game. But for one final time this college football season, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, unsubscribe, tell a friend, tell an enemy. Leave a 5-star review. Those really help us out. If you already left a review, grab someone else's phone. And we appreciate all of you. For those betting college basketball, I'll see you in a few hours if you're listening to that. And we will catch you throughout the year, but we'll see you Monday night. And we do have one final live show on Monday, so make sure you tune in there. But thanks again. for joining us all season, and we will see you in the summer. Cheers.
Peace out.